Here's the answer for day 4. Use your calculator statistic features to determine if the correlation between variables is strongly negative, weakly negative, strongly positive, weakly positive, or that there's no correlation at all. A correlation simply means a relationship. There's a relationship between two variables. This data table is identical to the data table in the day 3 Bellwork. Let me bring my calculator on screen. Push Stat, and then Choice 1 Edit. For list 1, I have the X values, and for list 2, the Y values. You'll recall yesterday that I showed you the scatter plot for this data, and I graphed the line of best fit. I'll push Graph, and we'll see that again. Look how closely all of the dots are to the line of best fit. Because every single dot is very close to that line, there is a very strong positive correlation. The correlation is positive because the line has a positive slope. As the value of X increases, the value of Y is increasing. Scatter plots of other data might result in dots that don't line up so perfectly in a straight line. This graphic shows some other scatter plots. And for each, it shows the value of R, called correlation coefficient. The correlation coefficient is a number between -1 and +1 that expresses how closely all of the dots are to the line of best fit. In the top left picture, if a best fit line was drawn through the dots, all of the dots are very close to that line. So there is a very strong correlation between X and Y. The best fit line has a negative slope, so the value of R is negative. -0.9 is a very strong negative correlation. In the middle picture, if you were to draw a best fit line, you would again have a diagonal line coming through, but the dots are much farther away from that diagonal line. The value of R is -0.5. This shows a moderate or weak negative correlation. In the top right picture, the dots are so scattered that you can't really find a best fit line to go through them. The bottom left picture shows a pattern of dots that's increasing, so a best fit line would have a positive slope. But the correlation is weaker in this picture than it is in the bottom middle picture. The bottom right picture has every single dot in the scatter plot lining up perfectly on the best fit line. So the value of R, called correlation coefficient, is the maximum number possible, which is 1. Now back to our data and our calculator. The best fitting line has a positive slope, so it has a positive correlation. All of the dots appear to be very close to that best fit line, so we expect this to be a strong positive correlation. And that's the answer that we want to write down. But the Bellwork asks us to justify that answer by giving the correlation coefficient R. The calculator will tell us that value. Push Stat and go to Calculate, then choose Choice 4, Linear Regression, like we did the other day. Scroll down to the word Calculate and push Enter. And hopefully this looks familiar to you from the other day. This screen tells us the equation of the best fit line. However, this screen can also tell us the correlation coefficient if we turn on an option called Diagnostics. Your calculator might already have that option turned on. Mine doesn't because I'm not seeing an answer for R on the screen. To turn on Diagnostics, we're going to access the catalog. The catalog is the same button as the 0, but it's in blue ink. So you push Second and then Catalog, and it gives us an alphabetized list of every single function that this calculator is capable of. We're looking for Diagnostics. We can scroll down until we get to the D's, or we can jump to the D's by pushing Alpha and then D. Then we can cursor down to Diagnostics faster. There are two choices, Diagnostic Off and Diagnostic On. Right now, my calculator has Diagnostics turned off, and I want it to be turned on. So I position the pointer at Diagnostic On and push Enter. And then Enter again, and it says it's done. Now look what happens when I go Stat, Calculate, Linear Regression, scroll down, and push Enter. It gives me extra information that wasn't there before. And one of those pieces of information is the value of R. It says R equals 0.98 2, 8, and so on. I'm only going to write down R equals 0.98. This number is very close to the maximum value of 1. That tells us it's a very strong positive correlation. If the R value had been like 0.7, that's a moderately strong positive correlation. If the R value was like 0.4, that's a weak positive correlation. If the R value is negative, then we would know that we had negative correlations.